Hey, it's Teapot, and I want to talk a little bit about one of the dirty little habits that exist in sports cards, and that is the fact that a lot of the stuff that we have is damaged, and there's really no good way to fix the damage on it. I mean, there's several creators out there. Kurtz is one of the ones that I see who's able to do some work on the cards, but sometimes cards are in just such bad shape that well, you can't really do much to make them worse, to be quite honest. So I've got this example. This is a 1951 Topps. This is Eddie Collins on here, and this one's obviously I can't do anything about the fact that it's missing the border. These were die cuts. They fold out. They got lost, and this is as good as this card is ever going to get. And this card here, which is Mickey Cochrane, is a little bit worse because you notice he's been torn in half. And this card, if you look at the back, you can see that there's a whole bunch of residue area back here. This card does not present well. It really doesn't. And the fact that the card is torn in half, there really isn't much that can be done with this card. This card will always be at best an A, and really that's all that can be done with something like this. But if you look in the world of art, you have art restorers, and what they'll do is they'll actually go in and try and make the piece present better. They're not trying to fool anyone with these things. They always use make it quite clear that this is a restoration. This isn't a repair. I'm not trying to bamboozle anyone and say this is a modded card. One of the things I'm going to use in this video is something called paper repair tape. This tape is specially made to be pH neutral, so it does not change the acidity of the paper. It's not going to damage the paper. So if you ever notice a lot of the cards that were taped from the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, they have really dark residue on it. You'll be able to see where tape had been, and even if you take the tape off, the adhesive leaves a residue behind that forever marks that card. You can actually see that that has happened here. If I bring this up a little bit closer to the camera, you can kind of see that tape residue. There's nothing to be done about that tape residue, but this is pH neutral, so it will not make the card any worse, aside from the fact that I am putting tape on a card. This card would already be no better than an authentic. So I'm going to take this card out of the sleeve that I have it in, and I have it in an oversized top loader. And inside of this top loader, I have it in two sleeves to try and keep it as together as possible. But you can see that this card has seen much better days. So I'm going to take this top out as well. And I've got these two pieces. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of this tape here, and I'm going to cut off a slip of it. Now, I'm definitely going to make this an oversized piece of tape because I want to make sure that I don't have it wrap around. I want to use as little of this as possible just to adhere these two sides together. Also, you will see when I put it on here that this is not going to be clear. This is not translucent tape. This does have a little bit of a haze to it. This is not going to be a hidden type of reconstruction. I don't want to hide the fact that I've made changes to this card. I'm just trying to make it present better. So I'm going to take this tape and I'm going to lay it on this edge here. And once I've done that, I need to do the same thing with this side. And I need to make sure that these edges match as well as possible. So I'm actually going to clip this off so I don't have a unwieldy roll of tape hanging from my fingers. And I'm going to bring this as close as I can to that edge to kind of preserve what we've got there. So now I've got this card, and it is still clearly taped. I'm not trying to hide the fact that it's taped. And the idea is that I want this to look as good as possible on the opposite side as well. So I'm going to try and reseat this. And this is a very delicate operation This is not something that is to be taken lightly. But if I go down here and I try and make that mend as well as I can, then what I can do is I can take this, flip it over. Now, of course, I'm dealing with tape and it's sticking to everything. But I can take a piece of plastic and I can actually try and get the tape to adhere as well as possible. You can see that where I'm kind of rubbing against the card, I'm burnishing the tape into it. Now, this adhesive is pH neutral. This is completely reversible. This will come off if I need it to come off and without damaging the card, which is important to me. The thing is, I don't want to cause any more damage to this card. What I want to do is I want to help it be a little bit more presentable. And that's really what I'm working on here. So once I burnish this edge, so I've done what I want to do here with the card. So I'm going to take these scissors and I'm going to finely cut the edge of the tape as close as I can to the card without damaging the card stock. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Now, this card has already been heavily damaged. I don't want to damage it anymore, but the idea is that I want this to be a little bit more presentable. Because having a card that's basically loose in its top loader, where it could get more damaged, isn't going to make this card look any better. And it certainly isn't going to look as if it came out of a box anywhere. That's really the point that I'm trying to make. So here is my card. It is not supposed to look amazing. It is not supposed to look mint. It's not supposed to be changing the condition of the card. This is still an A card. It is still missing huge amounts of cardboard, but it presents much better. And that's really kind of the goal of what I'm looking for in this video. So I've got my top loader here. I'm going to clean up these pieces of tape that I've got hanging around. And I'm going to put this card back in the sheets that I had. So I originally had two of these, not one touches, two of these penny sleeves. These are oversized penny sleeves that are used on tall boy basketball cards from the 60s and 70s. But the idea is that I'm going to put one on top, I'm going to put one on bottom, sleeving one inside the other, and that gives me a card that I can put in this top loader for a card that's now in one piece that's comparable to my Eddie Collins card. You know, it's not even at the belt line. His belt line is actually up here, but this does present better. And that really is kind of the goal of today's exercise. So I want to do this with one other card, which right now is presenting very poorly. And that is my T201 Nap Lajoie. This card, the paper is so brittle that it basically cracks and breaks, and I want to remedy that. This card is not going to ever grade better than an A, even if it were completely intact, because it had a hole punched into it. It has cardstock missing here and here. The idea is that I want this to present better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this gingerly out of this sleeve. Let me get this out here. And I currently have this in two semi-rigids. Come on. Trying to get this out. So I've got two semi-rigids here. I'm going to try and take this out without causing more damage to it, but you can already see how difficult this is going to be to work with. Now I'm actually going to leave this in for right now, and I'm going to start by dealing with the head of Nap Lajoie. So what I'm going to do is, as before, I'm going to take out some tape. I always lose the edges of these. So I'm going to go ahead and set some tape aside. And I'm going to take these two pieces out of here. I have them in a older card sleeve, which is a thicker card sleeve up here. And if I reach in, I think I have it opening to the side. I can see just how difficult it's going to be for these two pieces here. So I've got these two pieces of Nap Lajoie, and they do, in fact, eventually come back together to make one whole piece. But I'm going to do the tape on the back side, so I need to flip these two cards over. So I'm going to flip this over, and you will see Falkenberg, who's on the back of this T201, and I need to get these to match up as well. As well as I can. You can see part of the difficulty that we are going to have here. I'm going to get some tape, and I'm going to snip off a piece. And again, I'm snipping off a much larger piece of tape than I actually need. I'm going to set down that roll of tape, and I'm going to go right where that grain is, right where that seam is. And I am perfectly fine going off the edges like this. Remember that I will trim off those edges when I get a chance. And the tape actually serves a purpose, holding it in place on my mat. So I'm going to take my burnishing stick, and I'm going to burnish the edge, get the tape to adhere as well as I can to this paper. Keep in mind that this is a neutral tape. This is not acidic. This is not basic. This is not going to cause any more damage to the paper. This is removable. This will peel right off of the paper. In case I run into any issues, I can take care of that. So I'm going to go ahead and burnish this, make sure that it gets as adhered to the paper as possible. And you can see the tape on there. The tape is not matte, it's not glossy, it's kind of a semi-gloss. I'm not trying to hide the fact that this card has been repaired. That's the key here. I'm not trying to fool anyone, I'm not trying to bamboozle anyone, I'm trying to get this card to present as well as I can get it to present, because it is a heavily, heavily damaged card. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to trim the tape. There's that piece of tape. I'm going to trim this edge as well. And so now I have Falkenberg here. And because of the way that I've done this, I also have Nap Lajoie. And you can see the tape from where I burnished. You can see that there's a slight bend to the paper. I'm okay with that because I think that goes much better than seeing it in two pieces, or rather seeing it in three pieces, because we do still have the other half of the card that we have to get this onto. So you can see already that the top looks better than it did when it was in two separate pieces. I want to get this to now be a part of that card. So I'm going to flip this over. Here's the back of my card. And here's Falkenberg. And of course I'm going to need these to be as close to each other as possible on here, because I'm going to want this so that I see the top of Nap Lajoie's head. Oh, goodness. And you can see already where it's even cracking down here. I'm probably going to have to fix that off camera. And right there. So I'll be able to see all of Nap Lajoie. By the way, if you look, you can already see there's previous tape damage here. I mean, it looks like it's the hill, but it could also be previous tape damage. You just can't tell in this situation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip these two pieces over. I'm going to align them as best I can. And the fact that there is a hole in the top of this card actually helps me because it's going to hold this down a little bit. So I can just worry about getting this bottom edge to work. I'm going to get this to be as flush as I can over here. And once I've done that, I want those to get up snug as possible, as aligned as possible. And now I'm going to take off a piece of tape again. And again, I'm going to take off an oversized piece of tape. I don't care if I waste this tape. The tape is not the valuable part. The card is what's valuable to me. And I know some people will say, well, you've damaged this card beyond repair. This card will never be worth anything ever again just because of the damage that I've done to the card by taping it. But I assure you that by taping it, I'm allowing it to be presented as a card and not just three pieces of a card. That's what's important. What's also nice is that I don't have to worry about the static of the tape. This tape is electroneutral as well. And I'm going to take this edge and I'm going to burnish as well. I want to get this so that the glue adheres as well as possible to this paper because this is not a permanent glue. Part of what the art restoration area does is they don't want to do any more damage, so they make sure that every step they do is reversible. They use reversible paints, they use reversible pencils, and they make sure that if they use any adhesive, the adhesive is reversible as well. And this is a reversible adhesive. This can be taken off very easily, no matter how delicate this paper happens to be. So I'm putting this on. And this is not a card that I'm going to try and sell and bamboozle anyone into thinking, hey, this card is completely intact and has always been intact. I'm always going to be quite clear with this card that this is a repaired card. So I don't want you to think that this is something I'm trying to get over anyone with. Of course, one of the nice things about using oversized pieces of tape is that this does adhere to my mat. And now what I can do is I can take my scissors, getting as close as I can to that edge, and snipping it off. And then I want to do the same thing on this side, getting as close as I can to the edge and snipping it off. All right. And here we have Nap Lajoie in as much of one piece as I can get it. This really is as pretty much as good as I can get. There is this little crack down here, which I probably will go ahead and tape as well, just to kind of give it some security here. I'm going to choose a piece of tape that's going to just come up to about where the crack is. You can see the crack is about right here. So I'm going to get just one more piece of tape. And again, I'm perfectly fine with the tape being wasted, if you want to call it that. I'm not wasting the tape. What I'm doing instead is I'm making sure that I'm securing everything. Everything is going to be secure for me here. So I'm going to clip off a section of tape. And this one, because the crack is on the inside, I don't want to tape completely across the card. What I want to do is I want to tape as close to the edge as I can where that tear is. And again, I'm going to take this bone and I'm going to burnish the tape on there, get the tape as secure as I can on there. And then once I've done that, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to get as close to the edge as I can Come on. Behave. This is part of the problem, is that I don't have an edge to hold on to on either side. I just want to get as close to that burnished edge as I can without damaging the card itself. I think coming on this side is going to be a little bit more successful. There we go. All right. And again, I don't care about the rest of that tape. What I do want to do is trim that edge just one last time, just to get it as neat as possible. So now I have a card that is clearly has been in 3 pieces. I'm not trying to hide that fact. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get this card to present as well as possible. On the back, you can see where I've taped the card. You can see the tape here. You can see the tape across here. You can see the tape coming down here. But I have a T201 Playing Days Nap Lajoie card that looks pretty nice. So I'm going to get a nice tall boy sleeve for that, and I'm going to put that away. But I do want to thank you for watching and following along with me. I hope that I haven't horrified too many people breaking one of the big taboos in baseball of, repairing a baseball card. But I do want to thank you, and as always, have a great day.